The color's amazing. This is whole berries. You travel the world and see so many beautiful wine regions and great wines, but I haven't actually found anything that's quite like here.
I think it's because of what we have as a climate, as a terroir, and the people that are here.
British Columbia, located in the southwestern corner of Canada, is a diverse young winemaking region. Here, experimentation, a focus on the land, and a uniquely cool climate are resulting in increasingly exciting, high-quality wines. Wine growing was brought to British Columbia during the region's colonial period. The Catholic Church sent missionaries to the First Nations territories. These missionaries planted some of the first grapevines around what is now Kelowna, on the land of the Sailks people. They used the grapes to make sacramental wine. Most of the early plantings were French hybrids, valued for their ability to grow in marginal climates and produce ample yields. Hybrids dominated in British Columbia well into the 1900s.
As of the early 80s, we only had approximately 5 to 6 wineries in the area.
You know, there was more about making more wine, not better.
The pivotal turning point was the signing of the Free Trade Agreement in 1988.
The Free Trade Agreement between Canada and the United States connected British Columbia with the international wine market.
I guess we're due at lunch, aren't we?
Yet, focused on selling high volumes of lower quality wine, producers in British Columbia couldn't compete with the inexpensive, easy-drinking wines that began entering the country. To survive, the industry began shifting its focus to quality and regionality.
And it was a group of wineries that got together and said, we need to create an actual appellation system, we need to create some standards, and we need to grow up and get serious about this.
The government basically said, look, we'll pay you to rip out your vines and replant French vinifera because we're making terrible wine here. So let's make something good.
And that's really, to me, when the wine region went from we make booze to we're going to actually give it a go of making some serious table wine.
Wineries researched their soils and climate, planted higher quality vine material, reduced yields, and adopted modern vinification techniques. Gradually, British Columbia's wines began to improve. In 1994, Mission Hill Winery submitted its 1992 vintage to the Chardonnay category of the International Wine and Spirits Competition in London.
When they unveiled the winning wine and saw it was from Canada, they were like, we must have made an administrative error here, and they actually went and did the tasting again with the same result, and then they're like, oh, okay, we're sure. But like little things like that just give, I think, confidence to, hey, we can make world-class wines.
This milestone was a catalyst for growth and further investment in the region. In 1994, there were just 19 wineries. Today, there are over 300.
As we grow as an industry, there's more knowledge coming in. We know our terroir a little bit more.
Now we're really getting a sense of like, okay, what's below the soil? How was it formed? And how can we make wines that have a true sense of place? Not just in the valley, but along these distinct pockets within it.
British Columbia is divided into GIs, or geographical indications, and sub-GIs.
So within British Columbia, we have 9 geographical indicators. So a lot of other regions will refer to them as appellations, but here in British Columbia, we call them geographical indicators.
We originally had a few GIs for a long time, and now I feel like we're at the next phase of that where, you know, we look at the Okanagan, for example, and say, there's 85% of the grapes. It covers, you know, everything from the south near Osoyoos, where it's baking hot, up to the cooler climates of Lake Country. So to look at those all as one thing doesn't really make sense. So now we're in this phase of scientifically breaking those down into similar soil types and elevations and you know, climates, that we can create these official sub-geographical indications that can really start to tell a story.
if you see VQA on the label, Vintner Qualities Alliance, like for example, BC VQA Okanagan Valley, that means that the grapes are coming 100% from the Okanagan Valley.
The British Columbia Vintners Quality Alliance standard was established in 1990. To carry the BC VQA mark, a wine must adhere to origin requirements and be approved by a panel for quality and typicity. New GIs and sub-GIs continue to be added.
That basically delineate these different pockets of British Columbia as significantly different to the other. I think the next 20 years it's up to producers like myself and everyone else in this valley to prove why. We've done it now. Now we have to prove why it means something.
The main valley is the Okanagan Valley, which is a valley that runs north-south, about 4.5 hours east of Vancouver.
So we sit just to the east of the coastal mountain range, and being in the valley, we actually sit in this shadow that has very little rainfall.
You're at the tip of the West Pocket Desert, which comes from New Mexico.
We only get about 6 inches of rainfall per year. So without this chain of lakes through the interior of our valley, we wouldn't be able to grow grapes.
Lake Okanagan in the north of the valley is the largest and deepest lake in the region. It moderates the temperature, protecting vines from frost in the spring and fall months. South of Lake Okanagan are the smaller and shallower lakes of Skaha, Vaso, and Osoyoos, which straddles the Canada-US border.
As soon as we turn from winter to summer, we go from really, really cold and dormant to a foot of growth in 2 weeks.
Our growing season is a little bit shorter, but the days are long.
What I find is that because we have those beautiful warm days in the summer, is that we have nice ripe tannins that come through in the fermentation, especially through those Bordeaux varieties.
It's very, very hot here. It's a desert, and the nights are very cool. So an association of heat and cold nights, which retain a lot of natural acidity.
You know, that diurnal swing of really, really hot days, but then markedly cool nights is critical because it allows us in a very condensed growing season to be able to get physiological and phenolic ripeness, but still maintain acidity.
The naturally high acidity typical in British Columbia's grapes contributes to balance, freshness, and ageability in the resulting wines.
The valley was formed during a major glacial event about 9,000 to 11,000 years ago.
They ripped all apart the Okanagan. They left little spots of clay, gravel, every type of soil matter.
The event when the glacial outwash happened was so traumatic that we have very distinct areas within the Okanagan and distinct pockets with very different climates.
There's a huge diversity from north to south.
In general, the northern Okanagan is cooler than southern portions of the region. These differences in climate, along with variations in soil types and slope position, are reflected in the delineation of sub-GIs.
It's only an hour and a half's drive to the border, but down there that's Cabernet territory. There's no way they can do what I do with Riesling down there, but equally I can't do what they do with Cabernet up here.
The most planted grapes in the Okanagan Valley are Merlot and Pinot Gris, but over 60 varieties are grown, reflecting the region's immense diversity and potential.
Your neighbor's growing Cabernet, the next guy beside you saying, no, this is for Pinot Gris, and the next guy's going, no, this is for Chardonnay. It's just because we have such a diverse portfolio of soils.
I think about it as complexity through non-uniformity.
Vineyards are planted on both the eastern and western aspects of the Okanagan Valley. The slopes of the valley create opportunities for different amounts of light and heat exposure, varying depending on the aspect and time of day. Slopes facing east capture the morning light, jump-starting ripening, while slopes facing west soak up intense heat from the long days.
The difference between the western aspect and the eastern aspect can sometimes be as many as, 3 or 4 hours of sunlight in a day.
It's maybe 5 kilometers over there. It's not very far, but the structure of the valley really makes a difference to how the grapes are grown and the way that the flavors come out. White pepper, black pepper.
Outside of North Okanagan Valley, there is the Similkameen Valley, which is just half an hour from here.
This region's built on the watershed of the Similkameen River. You get a nice loamy topsoil that's formed over the last number of thousands of years, and then underneath it's like old riverbed. So you get these rounded river stones with a lot of the calcium carbonate kind of coatings on there, and that tends to give a lot of minerality to the wines of the Similkameen. So we find Similkameen wines are sort of known for having this sort of salty, stony, mineral character to them.
Many of the grapes that thrive in the Okanagan also succeed in the Similkameen Valley. But this valley is much narrower and the ridges are higher, amplifying the impact of aspect and topography. Because of these factors, site selection is especially critical.
You kind of get all the different climates you would see in the Okanagan, from Soyuz to Lake Country, but all within about 10 kilometers, all based on, you know, where the mountains are, how steep it is, how much sunlight they get. So it's very diverse in a very, very small area.
Then when we look down around Vancouver area, we've got Fraser Valley, and then we've got the islands and Vancouver Island as well.
They see more rainfall, they don't see as many heat units as where we stand today.
Of the coastal regions, Vancouver Island has a nascent but particularly promising wine industry. Because the climate here is significantly impacted by the Pacific Ocean, moisture pressure is high, and hybrids are grown in greater quantities. Recent accolades for Vancouver Island wines have spurred new, exciting investment in the region.
Climate within British Columbia and each of our growing regions are so vastly different.
There's different regions that offer opportunities. You just have to, make sure that you're working with it.
We're constantly working on different varieties to see what will succeed.
Let's try it, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, we pull it out and we try something new.
We're in the amazing let's try everything phase of a young region. I feel that the best wines in the Okanagan are being made with a very gentle touch.
As the global wine industry has increased its focus on sustainability, producers in British Columbia have done the same. In 2008, a group of growers and winemakers came together to consider how the region could be moved toward greater sustainability.
And so we worked for almost a decade, and in 2020 we launched the certification. So now we have a program that has standard in the vineyard and in the winery.
It starts in the vineyard. What are you doing in the vineyard? And that's often where it stops, and we decided to go a little bit further. Where does your cardboard come from? Where does it go afterwards? What happens to your wastewater? What happens to your glass waste? Where are your bottles coming from?
Do we take care of our people? Do we take care of our neighbors?
The certification considers grape growing and winemaking, each with a separate application process. In addition to achieving certain criteria for environmental, social, and labor issues, growers and winemakers must demonstrate continuous improvement. Audits are performed every 3 years.
Oh, there they are. There you go, coming in just right on cue. There you go, team. Hey. Here we are at our home block vineyard, and these are our Scottish Highland cattle. So we've got 5 of them here in total. The addition of the cows have just been an amazing opportunity for us to continue to create more biodiversity in the vineyard. And from an incredibly healthy vineyard, we know that we can get exceptional fruit. Now we're producing wines that maybe 5-6 years ago would have been 13.5 alcohol, now they're 12.5. And and especially coming after, warm vintages, challenging vintages, the vineyard is so much better set up to kind of sustain itself in challenging times.
The food that's kind of come up in a lot of the wineries and restaurants, it's about supporting local, really. I think what people are really trying to do is create things that come from the Okanagan.
So we get, cultures from all over the world and their cuisines have come together, but then we also grow a lot of really great ingredients. So it's sort of different flavor combinations using local ingredients just give a huge world of wine pairing opportunities.
Because our wines have this great acidity, they just pair with so many different types of cuisine.
One of my favorite pairing was the Syrah et some lamb. The Sauvignon Blanc and the smoked salmon is actually perfect pairing.
So you've got the local wine, the local foods, the local terroir that is all-encompassing.
As we continue to understand the varieties that are planted here, as we explore new varieties and as we hone our techniques, I see the quality of the wine coming out of this area just continuing to improve across all of the producers in the region.
As these vines get older and we get more complexity, more dry extract, more longevity in the wines, I think the real excitement for BC wine in the future is the proof that these wines age as well as any other region in the world. Rather than the back of alcohol and extract, these wines are aging on the back of natural acidity.
We know our terroir a little bit more, and we know what we can produce, and we are shifting towards a wine that are made in the vineyard. We don't have to be ashamed as a small region as, oh, we're making like wine like Bordeaux or like whatever. No, we're making wine from the Okanagan, on the Okanagan soil, with our talent, and we have a signature. We have a BC wine signature.